Welcome all to Changing Scenes. We're going to be discussing today a wonderful and amazing project called Lodgy Femme. It's a shelter for women which should be opened on December the 17th this year. It's an idea that has got off the ground in a very short time. It's a wonderful and amazing project, as you'll learn from my guest, Benoy. Amongst his friends, he's known as Benny. So welcome, Benny. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit perhaps about yourself before we get into the project?
Well, yes. I hate to say it, but I'm 66 years old, getting on 67. And I'm an old Navy man. I'm a career sailor. I did 26 years in the combined British and Canadian Navy and settled down in Montreal and a member of St. Joseph's Anglican Church in Brossard. During that last 8 years with the church in Brossard, I've been working very closely with the Welcome Home Mission and the homeless men of Montreal. This last few years, as you know, 1987 was the year of the homeless.
Right.
And I got involved with the homeless woman.
I see, because we know very little has been done for women to date. That's correct, isn't it? Quite a bit has been done for men.
Yes. There are shelters at Salvation Army and Auberge Madeleine, but there's nothing near enough. There's nowhere near enough beds available or shelters available for a homeless woman.
And your Lodgy Femme, I believe, is going to have 35 beds. Is that correct?
Yes, we have 35 beds, and I have a large basement where, in an emergency, and especially a very, very cold night, we'll be able to put a few more up, get them out of the cold. Yes.
And what sort of people will come to you? I know they're homeless, but are they going to be literally people who are on the streets?
Well, the types of people that are going to be using Lodgy Femme are many and varied. They come into really three main classifications. Some are psychiatric patients who have been sort of told by the doctors that they're okay and they can live on their own, and they just can't make a go of it. Then there's unfortunately, some of these young prostitutes that are trying to get off what they're doing, and they're looking for a home and guidance and care. And of course there's prisoners coming out of jail, and just people that are plain poor, people that just cannot cope with the rent and the ever-increasing cost of living. And if they find themselves homeless, yes, we will be open to anybody that says they're homeless.
Right. Well, this is a wonderful thing. It's a magnificent-looking building. Is it a new building?
It's brand spanking new. We didn't intend to have this. When the group started, as I say, February in '87, we went looking for an old home in Montreal, or I think our original concept was 8 or 10 extra beds run by a bunch of volunteers from all denominations. And it's quite an interesting story how I got involved in this. I think it could be just my lack of my inability to speak French. I signed a few papers that at the time it was a little dangerous, but we ended up with a brand new building, yes. And in a way it's better because the 8 or 10 beds, we found out since that the staff to look after 8 or 10 people, you still need a minimum of 8. And you need the extra beds to obtain sufficient funds to make it pay for itself.
Well, now, how did you get the funds to get hold of this building? First, it's a brand new building. It's been built from scratch. Where'd you get the land from to begin with?
Well, that was quite a story. I had to get a charter first. And once again, my lack of French, which I am learning now that I have my new hearing aid, I am learning my French very, very, in fact, I'm doing pretty good these days. But the actual land, first they said it would cost $80,000 or $90,000.
Who were they?
This was the mayor's office and my dear friend, Mr. Gardner, who I saw on television one night. And Mr. Gardner and his staff, Madame Lucienne Desjardins, they told me that I could have some good property downtown at around 70% of the cost. And at the time, I was a little short of money. In fact, when they asked me how much money I had, I said around $1 in my pocket. So I ended up getting the land for $1.
Isn't that
and I have a 41-year lease for the city has really done a marvelous job.
That's the MUC, the Montreal.
Yes, yes, they have done a fantastic job. They're not only my shelter, all over. They're really doing their best to try and relieve this the best way they know how.
Right. Well, now, somebody has to design a building and be paid for it, and the bricks and the mortar. What happens there?
Yeah, well, there's a group, several groups of people in Montreal who they're non-profit organizations, and I picked one here. It's called the Habitation Communautaire de Centre-Sud de Montreal. Now, this is a non-profit group of expertise who look after the financing, the architects, the engineering, even right to the contracting. And I was very, very lucky in finding this group in Ontario Street. And Monsieur Marcel Lebel, who is the president of that, I worked very closely with him. He could speak no English, and I could speak no French. Between us, we sat down, and in an amazingly short time, we developed what we see here, and it will be finished in 2 weeks. I take my hat off to people like Marcel. They did a fantastic job.
Right. Well, now, when you get down to the contracting, who pays the contract? What I'm looking for is where does the money come from to pay these?
Well, the 1987, as you know, was the year of the homeless, and the government, both governments, Quebec and Canada, and Ottawa, rather, they had this low-cost mortgages. What it amounts to is a home like this, $720,000 to complete. It's impossible for a group of people to try and finance that. What they've done is they're paying, if the mortgage is 12%, which I think it will be this month, they're paying 10%, we pay 2%. In actual dollars and cents, it works out, they pay around $56,000 a year, and Logifam has to find the 2%, or $26,000 a year, which is very small, really.
Yes. Have you got guaranteed sources of this money? You're a charitable organization and a registered
we are registered. We're registered. All donations, there's income tax receipts issued.
I see.
I would like your public to know that the board of directors that run this, we're a non-profit, and we have no salary whatsoever.
Right.
There will be 8 people working inside the shelter where will be paid. But the actual funding, the 35-year mortgage we got now, will be my responsibility, plus the cost of running the shelter. And we've estimated it to be $250,000 a year.
My goodness.
It works out to $21,000 a month. That's just salaries, heat and light and insurance and food.
That's pretty wonderful. Yes. Yeah. Well, now, come to the building itself. It's got rooms and beds for 35, plus emergency spacing for more people.
Yes,
it's for women only. Are there any men involved in running the...
Well, no. I don't think it... it's a place for women, run by women.
I see, yes.
There will be the odd priest or the odd Anglican minister come in there and minister to them if they want a service on a Sunday, or there will be a small chapel in the basement. And for those that want to hear the gospel message, yes, it will be
there. But
there.
it's not a religious organization?
No, not
as
such, no.
It's just a shelter for anybody who's homeless. They can come.
Yes,
warm,
this is true.
They get a bath and wash up and cleaned. And
the only religious part about it, it is a bunch of Christians who started this thing. And how we started was amazing, because it was just a prayer group at first. A group of 7 or 8 people at St. Joe's, and we were praying that during the year of the homeless, somebody somewhere would find a house and find 2 or 3 extra beds, because we knew there was a shortage.
This was in February last year?
February of '87.
Well, that's amazing.
And one day during a Bible study, just after that prayer group meeting, I was reading in the Old Testament, the book of Joshua, where old Joshua was praying to God, and God said to him, "Joshua, get off your knees, get off your face, and do something." So I guess being an old Navy man, yes sir, up and do something. And I just went ahead. I won't say blindly. I felt sure that this would be a reality. If somebody would just get off your face and do something. It just went from that, and it just progressed, and it's amazing. We have everything.
Right, and the building should be completed on the 15th of this month.
Right on time.
And then on the 17th, you're going to have an official opening. How do the women, the girls, get to know about this? This facility is available.
Well, last year, I think I was told, Auberge Madeleine turned away 3 out of every 4, you know. And YWCAs were turning them away. At 2 in the morning, people were calling me, "Are you built yet?" It was 20 below zero, and they were phoning me at my house. Last year, a woman actually died in the streets. And the men have several places to go. There's still a shortage, but the men have places to go. The Old Brewery and Welcome Home Mission and so many other missions. But the women have next to no place. And the women don't seem to make a noise. They don't seem to cry out so loud. And I know that they're suffering in silence. And they just die in the street.
Right. Well, now, what sort of age range are these women? What sort of, you mentioned the young prostitute, the battered women involved?
Well, yes and no. See, the board of directors has said that we will turn nobody away that's homeless. And if a woman does come to us at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning and we have a room or a bed, and it's a battered woman, we would probably take her in that night, and then the next day look after her and direct her to social welfare, social service, I should say. So there are battered women's shelters available. But in the state of panic like that, we turn nobody away.
Right. So you'll give them a bed, you'll give them food, and so on. Now, how long will you keep them?
Well, we're trying to make it if possible, especially with some of these so-called bag ladies. I hate using that terminology, but their worldly possessions are in plastic bags. And
do they want to stay, these people?
Yes, I would like to mention that, because I've had it put to me so many times by churches and by organizations, oh, these women don't want to come in. I have found out that there's only 3 or 4% don't want to go anywhere except on a very cold night. The 97% want to come in out of the cold.
They really want to?
Yes. The age ranges, I think, are from 17 to 90. It's sad. And I think the biggest group seems to be from 20 to 40.
I see. And so if they want to stay,
6 months.
Do you have a sort of 6 months?
6 months. I'm trying to make it a 6 month. No, I can't force people out after 6 months. But during that 6 months, with special care, counseling, and training, women teaching them lifestyles, teaching them how to cook again, how to go into a store and buy, how to manage their finances. Well, for instance,
but where do they get? You talk about finances. Some of these people presumably have nothing.
No. Well, once they come into us, or once they say they have a home with us, and we obtain their names and their addresses, and we register them with welfare, we will be able to get their welfare checks. And the government says it's legal for us to take 3/4 of that to pay for their room and board, and we try to save them $100 or so to live with, or to keep for them for the year. 6 months is over, they can get out.
I see.
There's going to be a follow-up system. They won't just leave us and be on the street again. We're trying very, very hard to make them want to live a normal life in society again. And this is where the special care counseling and the I hope the many, many volunteers. These women just need love and a place in society again. It's a matter of, in that 6 months, if we do things properly, if only 20% get turned around, I'll feel we have achieved something.
Will the government's social services be coming into this as well,
yes,
or just in the sense of referring them to you?
Well, Madame Lavoie-Roux has been very kindly given us a grant of $60,000 a year. The $250,000 required to run it, it works out, just for figures, the $250,000 works out to $600 per bed per month. I worked it out that close. And with their welfare checks and that 60, we could actually operate, but it'd be on a shoestring.
Right.
We're short at least 25% to have a full staff.
Well, you have to presumably buy everything unless it's given to you. Food,
I have already
clothing.
I bought $40,000 worth of furniture. I went out on faith and ordered everything. I told the stores I had no money, but it's all coming in. It's all coming in. So
that's truly wonderful.
It's really working out beautifully.
Now, a lot of these people will be ill.
Yes.
I take it to what medical facilities do you have for them?
Luckily, where we are on the 2235 La Rue Saint-Jacques, it's near hospitals, near the metro. And
Metro Vanier?
Metro, Sir George Vanier.
Sir George Vanier.
We will after the first night they've rested and cleaned up, we will get them into a medical, to a hospital, and checked out properly.
You may have AIDS patients amongst those, I
yes.
think, particularly those who were involved in prostitution and so on. It could be very...
I know with AIDS, it's like any other sickness. It's something that we have to live with. And because they got AIDS, we just can't say we don't want you.
No.
No, they're welcome, but they will have medical treatment, and we're trying not to become a shelter that is looking after the sick, chronic sick. We are a shelter for, I won't say reasonably healthy, because none of them are reasonably healthy, but people that can fend for themselves. If an AIDS patient can fend for himself, or herself, I should say, I see no reason why. My director, Mrs. Claire Muirhead, has made it very clear that she doesn't mind taking them in, looking after them.
Okay, now you said that there were women who run it. The board of directors is quite apart for it, but the administrators and the people in there, I think you said there were 8 people?
8 so far, yes.
And are they professional? Are they...
Well, I don't say they're professional. Claire, I was so glad to get Claire. Claire Muirhead has worked a lot with Welcome Home Mission. And people they may not realize that a Welcome Home Mission not only looks after homeless men and the alcoholic problem, the drug problem, they also have what is known as a Trust and Thrust Club, over 50 ladies that come in there every Wednesday, and they give them food and clothing, and a lot of women's work gets done there. And she worked with them an awful lot. And plus, her husband being a pastor, she knows counseling. And she's a woman that has a lot of love in her heart to do this sort of work. It takes a special type of woman to it's easy to love some pretty woman, pretty face. It's hard to love the unlovely. Because when these people come in, some of them are very hard to love, but there again, the Bible says we have to do this, you know, so we do it.
Is there any danger of violence amongst these women?
Yes, I'm afraid so. It's quite possible that we don't know who they are or what they are. So there'll be people on duty all the time, 2 people on duty all the time.
And they would have some knowledge of how to deal with...
Yes, well, yes. Right now, I'm very, very glad that the staff that we have got right now, some volunteer staff, but the paid staff, have been trained this last couple of months with Captain Foster of the Salvation Army. They've done a very good job, and we open up on the 17th. We have all our forms ready. We have everything ready. We're not going in cold.
The police are in close touch with you.
The police. The police will know where we are, who we are. All the other shelters who have to turn people away know who we are.
I see.
And we work very closely together with all of them.
Were there a lot of requirements? I'm thinking of municipal red tape and regulations to get going. I mean, it's amazing in such a short time to get a building going.
This is something that I'm not proud of. But I thought all the way through, my lack of French, I have enough paper in my office right now. If I sold it, I could buy 2 houses. I had to trust an awful lot of people. When you're signing statements for literally hundreds of thousands of dollars and not really sure what you're signing for, but I always thought in my mind, the government's paying 10%, I'm paying 2%. They're watching this dollar closer than I am, and they are watching the dollars. And people like this, Marcel Lebel, they watch me like a hawk. And they're very clever and very, very knowledgeable in this. They've done more. This is not their first project.
This is the
Les Habitations Communautaires de Centre-Sud.
Yes, okay.
They knew the project from day one, and I really trusted them. I had to go out in faith and trust people. I tried to work. I was working 10, 12, 14 hours a day. And a month ago, I was preaching a sermon, Lake of Two Mountains. In fact, I had 3 sermons that day as a lay preacher. Not an official lay preacher, but as doing my board sermons. But during this period of time, I actually lost track of where I was going. I was in my car, and where am I heading? I had to stop. It was getting a little bit much for me. But I think that's just because the finances were a little bit bothersome to me. Everything had to be done in French. Government forms, every single thing in French. And I could have asked for it in English, but I didn't want to offend the hand that was feeding me.
And now you've said 12 directors.
Yeah.
How many of those were able to help you actually get the thing to go?
Quite a few. I had one dear lady, Connie Bridgman. She happened to be the secretary for Ogilvy Benoy, Mr. Bowie, who was our lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And this dear lady, she is quite capable of listening to 4 people talk at a meeting, and in shorthand, not miss one word.
Have to recommend it to us.
Yes, well, she is great. I have a lot of good people that way.
Yes,
yes, the whole board of directors are. I think the main requirement is not so much the expertise in different fields. It's in their heart. They just want to help these women get them off the street.
Yes, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you'd said that you just set me off there on a track, and I was following this through. You're a member of the Anglican Church in Brassau. Yeah. These directors come from various walks in life. Are other religious bodies or other social bodies involved too in this?
Yes, the Catholics Women's League, I think there's a famous lady, Mrs. Gann.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Gann came to our rescue almost the first 2 or 3 weeks we opened up. We hired the Ramada Inn. I had to meet someplace. I just put a notice in the paper, those that are interested in helping or starting a shelter, come to Ramada Inn. I had no idea even how to pay for the Ramada Inn, but I got all the funds that day. She was the president at the time of the Catholic Women's League.
Mm-hmm.
And she is a worker of workers. If I had a board of directors or a staff that could work as hard as that, we'd have no worries.
Mm-hmm.
The Anglican Church, the Diocese of Montreal, came through with some heavy funding.
Tremendous.
I think all denominations pitched in here.
Mm-hmm.
Catholic Women's League, there's a famous Father Gurley.
Mm-hmm.
He was the only one that remembered at the groundbreaking ceremony. He took out a bottle of holy water, and he even blessed the ground. So everybody did their little part. But yes, I don't think it's a case of denomination here. It's a case of if people got it in their heart, they want to help.
Yes.
And yes.
I'd like to ask you a question, because nowadays we hear so much, so many schools are being closed, and it's often crossed my mind here, these marvelous buildings, they got everything in them. Why couldn't they be taken over as shelters for, I mean, the fact that the material is there, it would have to be staffed and so on, but wouldn't the cost be minimal instead of letting these buildings be destroyed, fall to ruin?
Well, these are things that I've pondered over from day one. Like I told you, I initially asked for an old building to renovate. I found out the renovation costs more than building a new house for a start. Once you start opening up schools and things like this, you have to have paid staff. And if they're not a bunch of dedicated people who want to see this thing go, you're paying big money. Money's got to come from somewhere.
Yes, but if you, I'm saying that obviously you have to have a trained staff, but why couldn't people make it a project in their area, even helped by the...
There's a few churches doing this. They're opening their doors at night. It's nice that people would do this. It's getting the volunteers to motivate the people.
Yes.
I've been a year working with all denominations, advertising on the radio, TV. It's a big job. You just don't blow a whistle and they all come running in.
Yes.
It's a monstrous job. It's got to have a board of directors that's really dedicated to get this work done. Yes, I hope churches listening would feel free to have a couple of volunteers on a very cold night to tell the police our doors are open. But you have to have somebody to monitor.
I understand,
yes. To burn the church down, this could happen. They light fires right in the...
Is big business helping you in the coming up with some financial support?
One company so far has really helped me. One company gives me $200 a month every month. And in fact, they gave me $100 a month, and when they found out they were the only one, they increased it. Business will help eventually, but it's a matter of time. There's just not enough hours in the day to get every job done, to monitor the building, to fill out all the government forms.
Yes. How long is your mortgage for?
It's 35 years.
Yes, that's a long time, and you have to keep this going. The total outstanding debt is?
The total outstanding debt is $720,000.
Well, I wish you tremendous success in getting this done. Time is running to a close, so I think we should perhaps sum this up. Is there any special message you'd like to give? I think perhaps you'd like to once more give the address.
Yes, I sure would.
And the telephone number. And
yes, yes. If anybody would like to help us to keep running, they can send any donations to Post Office Box 62,
62,
St. Lambert, Quebec.
Okay.
And the postal code there is J4P3N4.
Okay, so we just repeat it for
yes,
everybody.
Post Office Box 62, St. Lambert, Quebec, J4P3N4. Anything that they can do at all. I would also like people to be able to say, yes, we can provide blankets, we can provide sheets. I was hoping the individual churches maybe could this next month or two get together and donate a few blankets, especially. I'm sure there is a shortage of blankets and sheets.
Wonderful. They would contact their local priest or pastor or bishop and the rest.
Yeah.
And the address, once more, if anyone, are you interested in people lending their own personal services?
Yes, if they want to help me as a volunteer or to phone me at my house, and I'll put them on to the director.
Well, thank you very much, Benny. We really appreciate it, and good luck. We'll look forward to reading about the opening on the 17th of December, and I'm sure a lot of women in Montreal will be most grateful for your work, hard work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.